So Karl's hanging out while I do the needle binding thing first. So it's -4 today. Actually, it doesn't feel that cold though, because we got a lot of snow. We got like this much snow in Gudvangen. We'll hope it lasts a little bit longer, but the snow makes it kind of warmer. So blue, because it's cold. So I think we'll go with blue for February. I saw someone was asking. You guys are on early. So I have to say hi to Audra. Are you back from Paris, by the way? How was it? And Torben is here. Hey, hey. And Audra says, Jacqueline, I had a cute. No, you're not alone. We're all with you. It's just a matter of if we want to chat or not, but we will. Torben says, she says, Torben, har du prøvd den litauensk ølen? Så nei, det ligger I køen. Podcasten vår starter opp igjen, så da blir det nok med der. Because Torben, if you don't remember, had a podcast for called Quarantine Beer. I think they're going to change it to something else. Don't know, but obviously he likes to critique beer, and it's hilarious if you ever get to witness him critiquing beer. They did it here actually for Christmas beers, not a month or so ago. Anyway, so Audra brought him some beer from Lithuania that he could have to critique. So I'm kind of curious just to see what he thinks about that too. And then Albert is here, and Charlotte is here. Icy and windy Bergen. We don't have any wind. The ocean is like here. It's completely smooth, placid. And Nell is here. Yep, the color for February is going to be blue. Why? Because I had a job to do. I needed to take a picture of the village at Blåtimen, the blue hour. If you're aware of who the Blåfjell nisses are, or the Blåfjell gnomes, big long pointy blue hats, they come out when the sun has gone down and it's blue just before it turns dark. That's when they can come out in the blue hour, and then they have to get in before the blue hour is over, otherwise they disappear. So I got a blue photo as the one that's on the front there. And so now, because it's cold and it's February and we have the blue hour, let's do blue. So if you didn't know what the color of the month challenge is, we decided we needed to keep doing challenges because why not? So the idea is to make something with a specific color in mind each month. And last week we did brown. I made a hat. It doesn't have to be completely brown. Mine has brown and pink. And it doesn't matter which shade you use. It just has to have that color in it. And you can knit, you can crochet, you can needle bind, you can paint. Doesn't matter if it's a big thing or a little thing. But that's what the color of the month is. So now the color of the month is blue. I've decided, so you have until February, the end of February, to make something with blue yarn or blue paint or blue whatever, big, small, whatever. It can have other colors in it. It just needs to have blue in it. And it doesn't matter what shade you use. So what are you going to make? And did you finish your brown challenge? Hi, Karl.
Hello.
I'm talking blue. Have a seat. Dude, you came a little early. I was going to say, have you tried dollar in a stitch? That's because this yarn is so thick. I have to do a small stitch. I mean, I have to do something loose, because if I try to do ulu or something, it'll be thick. I'm textiling for a while. Go and do your air for about 5-10 minutes. Yeah. Give me 10 minutes. Told you were early. That's the Viking. He's allergic to textile. That's why we call it Viking Nalbinding, so you get the Viking and Nalbinding. Anyway, so I need something loose. So I think I'll try dollar in it today. And if you haven't seen it, it's one of my favorite stitches. I have my mitts on. We were outside filming. It's cold. Okay. And Lindsay's here, by the way, too. You guys got to write the temperature, and it's all a matter of how cold is it. And Kiwi's here. Oh, there's lots more on. Annette O'Connor just ordered blue yarn, so she's going to make herself something, as February is the birthday month. Oh, happy birthday. It's my kid's birthday month, too. They were born on Valentine's Day. Twins. And Heidi says, hi, har blå I genser jeg stryker. Ah, perfect. So she's already got blue in the sweater that she's knitting. That counts. It's done in February. Can we start a joint Insta account? I have to actually log into Instagram. I still haven't posted. Oh, I did post something on Instagram, actually. I got stuck in convoy driving over the mountain last week on the way home. I was supposed to go home on Sunday, but I couldn't because the mountains, it wasn't so bad down here. It was just raining cats and dogs. And we had avalanches going off all the time, just little baby ones. But up on the mountain, it was a different story. It was whiteout. So they had convoy driving, then it closed, and then convoy driving again. And I was hoping it was done in the morning, but nope, still convoy driving. So first I have to wait forever and a day for the convoy to go, because it's when they're doing convoy driving over the mountain, you only have one lane of traffic the whole way. There is no oncoming traffic. The oncoming traffic has to wait until your convoy gets across before they can be even allowed to go. And because you're waiting so long, the convoy can be really long as well. They have tractors and snowplows in the front, tractors and snowplows in the back, and a couple of them scattered in between. They count how many cars are going up the mountain, and then they count how many went over the mountain to see, anyway, to make sure that nobody gets lost. Because, so I hit the live button on Instagram, and I can see what people were saying afterwards, but I couldn't even look at it. It was, and it's half my, I got, the mount shows like half my dashboard, so it's not the best. But you can see the car that's like a couple meters in front of me. He disappears quite a lot, and it was kind of fun. So I thought you had to see what convoy driving is over the mountain. It has to be pretty bad for it to be convoy driving. It has to be like whiteout conditioned. And if it's slippery and impossible, then they just close it all together. So I posted, I actually, that's the cool thing about Instagram now, that your lives can be, you can post your lives. So I decided to make that a post. But at the time, could not look at it. All I could do was hit play or hit record, and then that was it. I should have opened this from the middle. It would have been easier. I thought I was out of this yarn, and I found more. So celebrate. Karsten and Doro are here. Hey. And Karin is here. 30 in Minnesota. Yeah, you're about the same temperature as here then, I think. Garcia's here as well. And let's see. Q says, I don't have the yarn for needle binding, but I'm working on a woolen Viking dress. It's blue. That counts. Oh, Tova Bryansdotter is here. Her birthday is on Valentine's Day as well. Oh, so cool. See? I ordered one boy and I got 2 girls on the pinkest day of the year. No, but I'm actually quite happy with them. It's going to be their golden birthday today, this year too. They'll be turning 14 on the 14th. So, how fun. Okay, so happy birthday, by the way, beforehand. Let's play a little bit before Karl comes back. If you haven't done dollar now, I highly recommend it. It's good for a thicker yarn. It can actually even, it's going to be a little bit more denser than Oslo. But it's very twisty at first and can be confusing, but it's literally one mistake away from Oslo. First, I just start with a loop, pretzel knot so that it points down, but it doesn't matter. Just get 2 loops on your thumb and just go. It doesn't matter how you start. You can cut the start away if it turns out ugly, because they're knots. It's not going to go anywhere. So, now, yeah, Kiwi loves, it's my favorite stitch. I absolutely love this stitch because it almost looks like basket weaving. It's so much different. Let's see. It's hard to look at my fingers through a lens. Okay, so there we got 2 loops. So just like Oslo, you go away from the back loop. If you start with it on your thumb, then you can just pick it off like that. Whoops. From the bottom side and take it on. So it doesn't matter if you start with it behind your loop, or I teach beginners to do it this way, because then they get messed up on which loop is behind. So you go away, but instead of going this way, what if you take the other loop that way too? But the scary thing about dollar knot is you have to take it completely off your thumb, put it back on, or then put the yarn over, and then you catch the new loop on your thumb. So that's the only scary thing about dollar knot. It's one mistake away from Oslo, but you do have to take the entire work off your thumb. So now you see you're going to have 2 loops pointing perpendicular to your thumb. This is because we took the bottom loop from the underneath. So we want to take the loop on the left, not the right. It's something like bunny ears, kind of. Anyway, take the loop on the left, and then go under, and then there. That's it. If I get a bunch going, then I'll show you how to connect. You can use F1 or F2. So I'm assuming a lot of you have tried dollar knot, but if you haven't, you should. It's my favorite. Remember the back loop, it's the one on the left. This might have been the wrong needle for this. So I'm thinking I'll make wrist warmers. I like Dollarna for wrist warmers. Dollarna hugs. It's kind of like those Chinese fingers cuffs, as I used to call it. You when we were kids, you'd get this like woven thing from tube from. It's called Chinese finger cuffs. You put your finger in on each end, and then when you try to pull it apart, the weaving squeezes and you can't get your fingers out. But if you loosen it, then they come out no problem. And that's kind of how Dollarna is. If you pull on Dollarna, it's going to really hug. But if you loosen it, it's fine. But because when you have it on anyway, it sits really nice. It's like form-fitting without actually being any difference in the amount of stitches from Oslo. So, Max is here. Hey, Max. And Rhonda's here, too. Torben says his favorite stitch is still sutures. What kind of stitch would you suture with, Torben? Now, would you use the butterfly stitch or whip stitch? How do you suture your stitches? And I want to see you make something with that. Now, it has to be blue. And where would you stitch? Are you just stitching skin, by the way? And if the skin is blue before you start stitching it, does that mean that you got in an accident? Rhonda says, my guild currently has an exhibit, I can't pronounce anything, exhibit of small pieces in a glass display case at local library, and her contribution was her in-progress fingerless mitts in Dollarna stitch with a brief description, and they got in. Congratulations. I like Dollarna. Dollarna looks so complicated when it's done, but it's actually not. It's not a very complicated stitch, but most people, they kind of stick into the Finnish family, and this isn't a Finnish stitch. This is either an other stitch or a turning stitch on Nylock and tie? You have to check me. But there you go, loop on the left. And then when I get a bit of this going, we can see what it looks like. Torben says, I've had over 100 stitches so far. That's why, really, I had that, I don't know if I ever had any stitches, actually, come to think of it. Oh, yes, of course I did. When my kids are C-sections, so I had stitches. But other than that, I don't know. I rammed my, those metal Tonka trucks you get in the 70s, these big yellow dump trucks, and they're metal. They don't make kids' toys out of metal anymore. This is why. So my brother and I got in a fight when we were kids. He's like my Catholic twin. He's about 12 months older than me. Exactly 12 months almost. So I rammed a Tonka truck into his head. And he got a cut above his eyebrow and he needed stitches. So there you go. This is why they don't make toys out of metal anymore. Don't mess with me. You'll get a Tonka truck in the head. Nella says Dolnar is one of the other family, but I would call it a blend or Oslo Stitch family. Oh yeah, this is definitely, Oslo and Dollar are definitely related in my opinion too. Because Oslo is, actually I have my Oslo Stitch with me. But yeah, because Oslo also has that under thing going on at some point. So this is what it looks like so far. It's weird because this looks like it's the back side, but that's actually the front side. And this is the back side. Because the back side actually is what looks flat when we would expect the front side to look flat. But it is when you put it together, when you combine the next row, that's when it'll start making more sense. But I need more stitches to do I do my wrist warmers from bottom up, unless I'm out of yarn. If I'm using leftover yarn, then I'll start them from top down purely because I need to use all my good yarn where it shows, and then whatever I had to fill it in because I ran out can be on the bottom. But otherwise I make them from bottom up because if I make the cuffs too wide, then now the wrist warmers start here. If I make them just right, they'll start about here, but if the start is too wide, then now it starts down here. What stitch is perfect for summer when Nalbinding? Oh, I would think anything airy, maybe. Because if you're going to be wearing something made of wool, at least in the summer, you can use cotton too, though. Definitely, I wouldn't use acrylic if you didn't have to, because acrylic yarn doesn't breathe and it kind of makes you sweat. But if you were going to use cotton and say you could use York, just thumb tensioned York, and you can make a really nice loose hat. Perfect timing, Karl. Did I just do awesome? No, I did the right one. I did the wrong. No, I think I did the right stitch. Anyway, we'll look at Karl for a bit while I keep working on this, and then I'll show you how I join it. Let's see. So, what did we do today, Karl? I can turn.
We will look at Karl for a bit.
There's Karl. We're gonna look at you for a bit. So what did we do today?
Yeah, it's the ordinary.
Yeah. Why does I have to collaborate there? No, I have to. Hold on. Why is that not working?
You have to calibrate.
Calibrate.
Collaborate.
I was going to collaborate with an I couldn't even say exhibit earlier. Exhibit was a difficult word for me to say. I messed up. So, by the way, it's no blackout. I was going to say it's almost time where we can go out again, but I think we have a little bit ways left before we can film outside again. YouTube. What did we do today?
Well, it's an ordinary day. It's
Yeah, but you did something different today than normal. You guided your tour on Zoom.
Yes, of course.
So that was fun. And they had a good time for it, too. They had a perfect time for it because we got all this new snow on the ground. So how was it trudging through the deep snow while guiding? It's like...
It's not so bad. There has been 2 tours before, so there was a trodden path.
Yeah? How much snow did you get in your shoes?
Not so much, but I am experienced. I'm Norwegian.
I'm experienced at walking in snow.
Yeah.
That's a skill.
And the trick is to step straight down and straight up. No dragging your feet.
No, I like to slide my feet in the snow.
Yeah, no,
Maybe because my legs are too short to actually.
It's good for the rest of us
lift
because you plow a furrow for the rest of us to walk in.
I have been upgraded to Viking snowplow. No, what did you do this week though? Anything fun?
Not really. Well,
Not really.
It's fun, but it's also routine. It's what we do every week.
Yeah.
And we have. This is the dead part of the year, so we have had a lot of days with very little customers lately.
Yeah.
So the southern hemisphere is coming, but they're coming in very small numbers.
You have to tell a story because I have to count. So I know how many stitches. I'm going to make wrist warmers, and there has to be the same number on each side, so I have to count. So you have to tell a story or something. What do you want to tell a story about? While I count.
Do you think I can just... I can actually.
You actually can just take full one out
But
of your
give me
ass.
at least a hint about what you want me to talk about.
I want you to talk about... Oh, PJ's here! Sadly, I can't do any fiber work at the moment. I've RSI'd my arm crocheting and had to stop completely for the time being. Oh, if that's anything like what I do with mine when I crochet, that I get it. It hurts. Rhonda said, so I put my mitts in with the bone needle stuck into it so people can see what the tool is. Oh, and the display. That's a good idea because then they can see that this is not a normal crochet hook or knitting needle when people think. She put her stuff on display. She did the dollar and a stitch. Mm-hmm. Okay. Torben, give Karl a topic so I can count. Nice stitches. Amaro is here, by the way, too. And Libellula, or I can never pronounce that. But hi. Welcome back anyway. Libellula. That's, I can't speak today. I can't say exhibit. I can't say, Calibrate. English is my first language, too. Lyra says, I love Dollarna. My favorite stitch right now is Bruden. So thick. Oh, yeah, that's nice and dense. And it has a herringbone look to it because it's one of the Finnish ones. Karin says, next week, teach Daughters of Norway group Viking braid weaving. Oh, have you ever tried that? Of course you haven't.
No.
I have to do some of that. I haven't really done it. But is it the finger loop braiding where you're kind of...
The worst thing is that I think many of your viewers actually understand what you mean when you say the finger thing, when
It's
you
like
go,
this, and then you... We could do that one day. It's not needle binding, but I could try. We're going to have soup for dinner tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Torben, give them something to talk about. Yes, it's definitely, so they know that they're not, it's not knitting. That's why you include the needle. Oh, look at that. Hemsedal Mountain is Cologne convoy driving. Just got a message on my screen. Torben says, we heard this dweeb on the radio the other day. I haven't heard the word dweeb in a long time. That's a good one. He said Bifrost is an old word for the northern light, and we thought it meant rainbow. Who is the silly head here? Which dweeb is right?
I also thought it meant rainbow, but I'm not sure. And
not
I
like
don't
the-
know what my source is for that. So
You got him. You
uh,
might have stumped him.
this is the type of shit I would normally Google.
Now we can count.
All of you are sitting in front of computers, so you can probably Google it.
We're needle binding. We don't have time.
Pretty sure it's the rainbow.
26 stitches. It's 26.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can think
I'm
about it.
pretty sure.
You want to Google a sec? I'll show my fingers. You
I
can
know
Google.
that the rainbow is the road into Åsgard. Heimdall is guarding it, but I'm just trying to remember if
It's easier to ask you, says Karin Bruve, and I agree with her 100%. Karin does.
I just don't remember if the word is used in the Eddas, because the Eddas are usually translated to a more modern and understandable Norwegian. So even if the original text says Bifrost, I would probably just say rainbow.
Yeah. So it's a rainbow. Also, Torben says it's much more fun to ask you. I think you stumped him, Torben. Does that count? Karl, is it stumping you? If you have to Google?
Well, yeah, to a certain extent.
Yeah. Let's see. Rhonda says, lately I have been bitten by the chest bug. Karl, can you talk about Nefertafel, please? Ooh, that's a good one to talk about. What is Nefertafel for those who don't know? And am I pronouncing it right? How do you pronounce Nefertafel?
You pronounce it Nefertafel. It starts with an H, but it's apparently silent.
Yeah.
Because it's not Nefertafel.
Oh, it's in the chat if you haven't seen how it's spelled.
It's a kind of simple asymmetrical form of chess. It's a board game like chess, and every piece moves like the castle, the tower does in chess. So along the lines, not the diagonals. To capture a piece, you have to move so that you have one of your pieces on either side of it. When you move in the second piece, you basically capture that piece. White has fewer pieces than black, and only white has a king. White's objective is to get their king to one of the corners. Black's objective is to completely encircle the white king. It's about as old as chess. I thought for the longest time that the Vikings like to basically see somebody is doing something and then just make their own version of it. They understand the concept of letters, so they come up with the runes, basically.
Yeah.
Instead of learning the letters that the Latin people are using, they just go, yeah, okay, we see what you're doing there. It's pretty cunning. Let's like make our own version of it.
Yeah.
And I thought for the longest time that that was what happened with Nefertafel. They've seen somebody play chess and go, okay, that looks fun. Let's make our own version of it. But apparently Nefertafel is about as old as chess. Both of these games are from the 600s. Chess starts in India.
Which one comes first, do you think? If you had to choose, nitpick.
I know too little about Indian society in the 600s to say anything sensible about it.
Okay.
I would think they are probably independent discoveries. So it doesn't really matter, because whoever invented the second one hasn't heard about the first one, most likely. In the late Viking Age, early medieval period, they overlap, so people are playing both chess and Nefertafel in Europe.
Yeah.
The Lewis chessman is made at about the same time, or exactly the same time as the stave churches, so very early medieval, right after the Viking Age.
Yeah.
And the Lewis set is also the first time where the bishop piece is an actual bishop. Before that, it used to be the chariot.
I just have to do
One reason that has been proposed for why they changed it into a bishop is that the people who like to play chess wants to be allowed to play chess, even though when the church is getting more and more powerful. And the church generally don't like any kind of gambling, or, well, they generally don't like pastimes that are not religious in any way. But by making this game, first of all, it's not a gambling game. You could bet on the outcome of a chess match, but you can't really treat it like poker. Um, and secondly, if they make the bishop a fairly impressive and important piece, they kind of get an in with the church. So that might have been done on purpose. I don't know if the church thought that one all the way through, because you will be killing a lot of bishops when you're playing chess. And that's probably an idea they want Vikings to stop doing instead of reinforcing that.
So they found Viking with not a chess, but with the Nefertofel piece in his mouth, and it was the king.
Yeah, and Salome. That's a very weird burial.
Yes, it is.
It's a whole war party buried in one ship. Their equipment is very high-end. So it doesn't look like it's an ordinary war party either. They are too rich for that. There is a lot of ring swords and a lot of cool equipment buried with this bunch of people. And they are kind of buried on enemy territory, most likely. It's kind of hard to say, because who controlled what back then is very unclear. This is, strictly speaking, before the Viking Age, if you operate with the raiders at Lindisfarne as the beginning of the Viking Age. The
893.
793.
Damn it! This is why you got the brains and I got the textiles.
I believe it is mid 700s or 750-ish. It might be even older than that. Salome is an island off the coast of Estonia, I think.
Yeah.
And it looks like Vikings have come there to ride, and then the locals have ambushed them and basically massacred the lot of them. But then they are still somehow honorably buried. So it might be that this burial is not Viking but Estonian, and they are kind of respecting them even though they are the enemy. And that might make sense also, because if you have these annoying people who come and try to kill you, they are not going to be more agreeable after they're dead. But if you give them an honorable funeral, they might just stay dead and not come back as Dragar and continue messing with you. And they might have been buried by other Vikings who came to the site and saw it afterwards. It's hard to say. If I remember correctly, there is Nefertofel pieces all over the place. But the king piece is inside the mouth of the guy with the nicest sword. So maybe so the gods know which one of these guys is the leader. I don't know. There is so much speculation about Viking burial customs that it's hard to say anything sensible about basically anything.
That's good conversation, though. Good question, because I managed to count. I used 26 stitches around. So then I'll show you what it looks like now. I did one row. It'll look, oops, stretch. That's one row. It's starting to get that woven look. And on the inside, it gets ridged. Okay. By the way, the fact that you didn't know something was quite fun. We're having a lot of fun at your expense here, Karl. At least I am. Anyway, Tova says, I thought Karl knew everything about everything. Yep, or everything about anything. I thought so too. I might have to leave him now.
I try to work up that reputation, but it's the most important thing for me is to never be wrong. So if I'm not 100% sure, I'm saying I'm not sure.
Then you say go Google it.
I would say it's...
Actually, it's an important thing to do.
I am pretty sure that Brimfrost is the rainbow, but I don't remember where I have that from, so I'm not sure.
No, I've heard that too, but I have no idea. But I don't retain facts as well as you do. But I agree though. Actually, if you don't know, you got to admit it. Like I make mistakes on stitches all the time. I actually said somebody was asking how old needle binding was, or the oldest piece of needle binding found, and I said there was a fossil from 8,000 years ago, I think. I'm not 100% sure, and I think Nandecker's going to kill me because she knows and I don't, off the top of my head. And I thought the oldest piece found was something, well, there was not oldest piece, but there was a piece in Egypt. I think that was found. That was 2,000 years ago, but I'm wrong. The fossil's 6,000 years
Are you
BC, and
sure it's a fossil
it was
and not an imprint or
it's an
something?
imprint. It's
Yeah.
an imprint. Sorry,
Yeah.
I can see. This is why you got the brains.
No, the fossilization
The
process
sock was 200 BC, not
takes
2000.
takes an enormous amount of time.
Yep.
Basically, a fossil is when
It's an
everything
imprint.
has been replaced by stone. And for that to happen in 6,000 years, I don't think that's possible.
No, it's an imprint. But yeah, anyway, the point was is I got the dates wrong, so I'm really glad I said don't quote me on this. But yeah. Anyway, another one, Torben says, the first side of old age is memory loss.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And Rhonda says there are apps for, quote, TOEFL, by the way. I didn't know that. That is kind of, you can play it on a, I didn't know there was apps for TOEFL, did you?
It stands to reason, because in the computer game Mountain Blade Bannerlords, you can play it in inns.
Oh, you
And I
can.
think you can play something similar in Kingdom Come Deliverance too. At
Yeah.
least you can play some. I'm not sure about that.
I didn't know that. I learned something new. Let's see. And Torben asks, by the way, so is Georg as good in TOEFL as he claims, or do I stand a chance? You stand a chance.
Yeah, I think you stand a chance.
You
He
stand a good
occasionally gets beaten by tourists. That's mostly tourists are really good at chess, because they kind of know how to think the right way.
You have to think a couple moves in advance, or try to
Yeah.
guess what if you do some. If you make one move, what is their reaction to
Yeah,
be?
basically how to limit your opponent's choices for the next move, type of thing.
Yeah. No, but he. I always say if you when customers go in there, go see if you can beat the chieftain. Somebody's got to do it. Put him in his place anyway. And then Georg, he'll actually sit there and go, well, no, I only win about half the time.
He wins more than that. But
think so, too.
another thing about Georg is that he is very easily distracted.
Georg's our chieftain, by the way.
So just showing something shiny or
Did you see my sword, Georg? Shiny. Yeah, he makes his own coins. Rhonda says also there's a CD-ROM chess software called Chess Master that was really good. Its intro animation was seriously cool and showed the Ivory Lewis chessmen. Oh, cool. We actually have a chess set that uses the Ivory Lewis chessmen pieces. Don't we, in the shop?
we have the Lewis. We can sell the full Lewis set, but the original pieces were found only officer pieces, no pawns and no board. So when it comes to the pawns and the boards, there is some guessing going on. But yeah, no, the most expensive thing we have in the shop right now is a combination board of backgammon and chess, and that one uses a version of a reproduction of the Lewis pieces. And it's pretty cool, but I hope we sell it soon, because the most expensive thing in a Viking shop shouldn't be a chessboard.
No, it's an expensive one too, but it's nice.
Yeah, it has mother of pearl inlay and
Wood inlay as well, different paneling, yeah.
hoody booty boo. It's
Oody woody wood.
I'm dreaming that one day some dude who wants to impress his father-in-law will walk in and see it.
Greg sold one of them.
Yeah, to an Arab gentleman.
It's a really good price though, the one we have in the store though. It's actually a very.
Yeah, we have discounted it to the point where we are probably not making much of a profit anymore.
No, but it's a really good discount though, but it's purely because we've had it for a while. I think it's not every day somebody buys that because you can't fit it in your luggage very easily.
Now, our typical tourist is traveling by plane and collectively to Gudvangen, so they have their pockets and the bag. They won't buy anything much bigger than books.
PJ said she just discovered that that it doesn't have it set to live. I did that for the while. I couldn't figure out how I was missing so much chat, but yeah, at the top of the chat on YouTube, you can click top chat, or it comes automatically top chat. You have to actually change it to live chat, and then you see all the ones that you've been missing. It's kind of like when you look at post on Facebook and it just shows you the top comments, and you kind of want to, it says there's more, I want to read all 11 comments, so you have to like change it every time. But it just assumes you want to see the top ones. So it's the same thing with the chat. But yeah, I always forgot about that. Salma, says Nella, is dated to 700 to 750 CE.
Yeah.
Yep. Actually, that was the one I read that one in Ashenelm, Children of Ashenelm.
Yeah.
That was a really cool one. That's one of those things I was figuring must have a picture in it. The way he was discussing it, because I was listening to it on an audiobook.
There is a book we are selling in the shop called River Kings. It's basically, her name is Kat something. She is an archaeologist, and she is basically tracing the lineage of one carnelian pearl found in an excavation in Denmark.
Yeah.
Carnelian is from North India, and it was a pretty popular gemstone in the Viking Age. Her book has gotten pretty good reviews, so I just found it as a book on tape, and I started listening to it for like 3 minutes earlier today. And the problem is, it's read by the author, and she does not have a good reading voice. What should I say?
Oh, I remember you were talking about that one.
She's probably a good author. I haven't read her book yet, but and an archaeologist. But her voice sounds like very young girl in an extreme hurry. So yeah.
Like me at the age of 20?
Maybe. Maybe you at the age of 11 if you drank a can of coffee. Hopefully I can get used to it so that I can get through the book. Because the book seems very promising.
Yeah. Alright, this is what it looks like after 3 rows. So now you can kind of see. But you saw it, when I measured it, it was just around this part, but now it's already stretching pretty tightly. So it definitely hugs. I like that. But because it hugs so much, this is going to be the wrist warmer that starts here and not down here.
But at least her reading voice isn't as bad as the Saga guy on YouTube.
Go ahead. Hey, you, scholar grandson.
I understand what he's doing. He's trying to sound dramatic, but he's whispering loudly while somebody is banging a drum in the background.
Go ahead, do your imitation.
Saga Egila Skalla Grimson. There was a man.
We have to zoom for this. Sorry. Go ahead.
There was a man who had a son. The son grew up to be a great warrior. And he was sleepy in the evenings. So they called him Kveldulf.
Do the eye thing. This is a good voice on you. Imagine doing your whole guided tour with that voice.
That would be a fireable offense, I would say.
Okay, we have to unzoom. All right. It's good old Egil. Right, so Rhonda. Let's see, there was more in here. Okay, so Lindsay now has to go and search apps. I don't think you're the only one that's going to be looking for Nefertofel apps. If you don't know how to spell it, they've written in the chat a few times so you can see it.
I seem to remember many years ago, Georg was bragging that he could play Nefertofel on his phone. So I think it does exist somewhere.
Oh, and he likes his gadgets. Yeah, he may live in the Viking Age, but his technology is current. Oops, turn it a bit more here. Torben says he likes the ancient Egyptian game called Senet. Is that the one with the little trays that you have to put beads in, or what is that? No, that's Africa.
I'm not familiar with it.
What is Senet? Somebody tells me. I see somebody else likes his game. Says they like playing that too, but I'm not familiar with that game. We have something to Google. But maybe it's not the one with the little trays where you have to move the marbles. I think that's an African game, actually.
Well, where is Egypt?
It's in the area. Said the girl who claimed it was a fossil. Anyway, let's see. See, Rhonda says, I love Senet. I'm not even probably pronouncing it right. Did a presentation on it for Denver's Egyptian Studies Society. Oh, cool. Okay, then Rhonda and Torben can tell us how to play. I have to learn. Albert says that he's only won 3 times while he worked here with. He worked here for a whole summer. He only won 3 times against Georg or against everybody. Did you get to play with the tourists as well?
I would guess that he's talking about it
I think he's
against
talking about
Georg,
Georg,
because if he manages to consistently lose against tourists, then he is either a horrible player or a very good teacher.
Maybe he was letting them win so they could feel good about themselves. I went to a Viking village and beat a Viking at Nefetoffel. And beat him at his own game. That would be bragging rights. No. Max says, I'm also using dollar and a stitch. I wasn't entirely sure if this stitch is appropriate for the summer heat. You can, but it does hug. But you know, it you can do it really loose. You could use a thinner yarn with it and that'll loosen it up a bit. I did do a hat a long time ago with some yarn that was actually intended for tapestry, but not the typical anchor wool. Anyway, but it was very thin and it was like a braided yarn. And I used a dollar stitch on that anyway, but the yarn was like way too thin for it normally, but it did make a nice loose weave. So you need repairs.
Yep.
Show over your hand. So this is something we were talking about in the needle binding class I just wrapped up this week. Hold up your hand and hold up my. You gotta hold your hand this way. Okay, so when I was telling him, right now you can't really see it too well because anti-back does not go well with needle binding, but I have a row around here, and this is why. Because this point and that point, it gets the most wear, and everybody that has the ones that don't have a row around there tends to break here first. Although, how did you do this one? That's a new one. You got like 2 thumb holes. You could do a finger in a thumb hole. Look at there.
I have. I think I have an explanation for it.
Yeah?
Because if I'm wearing this on this hand,
Yeah.
and you remember the thing I do with weapons all the time,
Yeah.
and our swords are not sharp.
Oh, did you actually have a sharp sword?
No, but if you do it hundreds and hundreds of times,
Yeah. Then you get that.
it's about the right place, so I would think that's the explanation.
No, maybe you have the extra thumbs, but that was impressive. No, but anyway, so you don't actually have to put a little row here. But I like to. You can't even see it on this one, but I like to do it for that reason. But it will get some wear. You can see on mine too. I made these during the pandemic.
Did you use a sharp sword? Do I look like Alec Baldwin to you?
He's getting charged. See, you can still see it's got a weak spot right there now, but it lasts a bit longer, or at least long enough that when it starts doing shredding because of anti-back, you can just cut off the loose roll and bind it back on again. So, anybody else have anti-back eat through their? I literally made these right before we went into lockdown anyway, and the anti-back. This one's actually not as bad. No, actually the row starts here and ends here because I cut out a piece. But that's actually 2 rows. Anybody else get their wrist warmers or mittens ruined during COVID with anti-back? Maybe it's just me.
I don't think you're supposed to anti-back your mittens.
It was too cold to take them off. It was winter.
Okay.
I was thinking maybe I could just wrap them under like this, I think, and then do it, but it still got on there. I was anti-backing left and right. And then what if I did get the, COVID on my mittens? Then I had to
This year, I'm hoping that I will have use more alcohol internally than externally, as opposed to the last 2 years.
I got to admit, we've been slacking a bit on the anti-back lately, though.
Stop doing it is probably a better
I still anti-back. Every time I go to the gas pump, I have to anti-back because, who touched the gas pump before me? They might have a cold. Flu.
Mm-hmm.
Plague. Yeah. Welcome to my OCD. Lindsay says, oh no, I read that one. Google had this app as well. 7 TOEFL apps. Oh, no, actually, I didn't read that. The Google Play Store has 7 Nefer-TOEFL apps, says Lindsay. Albert says at some point he should get some swords and spears for sale. Ooh, that would be good. Ooh, there's a lot more chat. I gotta scroll faster. Max says, I think Senet is an ancient Egyptian version of chess or checkers. Okay, so now that's not even close to what I was thinking. Does that make sense to you?
Well, if it is, then at least chess is modern Indian version of the ancient Egyptian game, because when you're talking about ancient Egypt, you're pre-Cleopatra with quite a good margin, and chess is
Sword talk.
600 and some years after.
Okay, sword talk. There's a subject change in here. Albert says he's what is it? She gets some spears or swords. But then Torben comes in and says, "So sword talk. Am I the only one finding the katana overrated? Because you know the Viking katana is a thing of beauty. There's no Viking katana."
Well, weapons are tools. The katana is mythologized from here to Kingdom Come.
What is a katana for those of us like me who are too stupid to know the difference?
A katana is a two-handed Japanese sword with a round crossguard, a slightly curved blade, and a long grip. If you don't need a shield for whatever reason, then the katana, the closest you get to a European equivalent would either be the longsword or the falchion. And
Good question.
In a world where people use really good armor, I think I would prefer the falchion, but the other two are okay as long as your opponent isn't wearing any armor.
Annette doesn't like the katana either.
Yeah, no. If you think of warfare as a game, then the Japanese has mostly, with some notable exceptions, including Koreans and Mongols, been playing with themselves all the time. While the European weapons have been used against everybody. That might say something about European mentality, but it also indicates you have a survival of the fittest when it comes to weapon technology. Japan's weapons are very odd, but if they were on the mainland, either in Asia or Africa, I'm not sure they would be that odd, because they would either be a good idea that other people would pick up, or they would be a horrible idea and I would stop doing it because they would die. And the katana isn't by far the oddest thing the Japanese do as far as weapons go. They have one thing I think is a super good idea. It's a spear called the yari.
Never mind. There it was. I was gonna read it, but you just said it.
What?
Go ahead. The ORE came out. But yeah. How do you spell it? What you were just talking about, the weapon you just said?
Yari.
Oh, how do you spell it? Maybe I wasn't.
don't know.
Okay.
E-R-Y-I-R-I, I believe. But
Okay, never mind. Continue your thought. That's not what I was reading.
What were you reading?
No, because Rhonda wrote katanas are illegal in the UK and said, no, that's the Owari. Owari. O-W-A and then R-I. Split with dashes. Owari or Ora Owari.
Can I see the word?
Yeah, you can. Right there. Oops, sorry. Owari. No, PJ wrote katanas are illegal in the UK. Maybe I made a mistake. Rhonda said Red Eagle Saga in college at CU, and then Standby, and then, no, that's Owari. So maybe it's not a weapon I'm thinking of. It'd be a cool name for a weapon, though.
Katanas are, well, basically everything is illegal in the UK. What is the maximum blade length you can have on a knife over there? It's horribly short.
Okay, I gotta go faster here now. Let's see.
So
what is antibacterial? What's in it?
This probably would get me in
Some
trouble
weapons.
in the UK.
That's sharp. That would get you in trouble if you hit me with that like I do with the...
Well, it will get you in trouble if I hit you with it, but...
Get you in trouble.
Nah, I just Alec Baldwin it. I didn't know it was loaded.
My finger wasn't on... I was on the trigger, but I didn't squeeze. I did not inhale. Okay, we're going on to other things. Okay, but anyway, yeah, no, because the alcohol in the antibac, that's what did it. PJ took the glove off first. That's what I should have done. I was just being lazy. Rhonda says that's... Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Rhonda, that's what we call hand sanitizer. Yeah, antibac or antibacterial is hand sanitizer. I forgot about that. That's a different, I think we call it both in Minnesota. I'm not sure. But my mom's a nurse, so I might have just got used to calling it anti-bac. Also, too lazy to say antibacterial disinfectant. But yeah, because there's alcohol in it, so it eats away. But I probably just got too much on there. And not sure or how or why it would dissolve the yarn over time. Nope, it's not just the liquid that did it. It's also because it's on this part of my hand. So sometimes if you anti-bac your hands, for example, took it off, anti-bac my hands, but didn't get it quite dry enough before putting it on, and then it's wet, and then it's... So I don't think it's necessarily eating it. It's normally I would get some wear and tear in this area anyway. So I wouldn't blame it completely on the anti-bac, but instead of taking responsibility for being too rough on my wrist warmers, I'm going to say that it was the anti-bac. Hand sanitizer. Pen knife. 3 inches for a pen knife is a maximum in England.
Yeah.
In UK. And yes, that would get you in trouble. Anti-bac is no good against viruses. It needs to be antiviral. That I wouldn't know. Well, yeah, no, what do we have? Crap, I don't know. It's in the car.
It's antibacterial.
The antibacterial bottle that I have around with me. Okay, so you have 9 minutes. Anything you want to get off your chest?
See, I can talk a little bit more about the katana, maybe.
Yeah. This might be long enough.
If I compare the katana to the European longsword, the katana has both of these are fairly long two-handed blades. The katana has one good advantage and one noticeable disadvantage against the longsword. The good advantage is that the blade is curved. Because to cut with the blade has to move. You can't just slap it down on something like this. You have to get a cutting motion like this. And if the blade is curved, then you'll get that motion no matter how you cut. So a curved blade like a katana or a scimitar or a falchion cuts a lot better in the hands of somebody who doesn't know how to cut than a straight edge would do. The downside with the katana is that it has a pathetic little crossguard that just barely does the absolute minimum of what the crossguard is supposed to do, and that is to stop other blades from sliding along your blade and cutting into your hands. While the crossguard on a longsword is like this or longer. So you can use the crossguard to protect your body fairly effectively just by tilting it a little bit like this when you're holding the sword in front of you. And they can't cut through that. Another thing with the crossguard is that the crossguard can also be used aggressively. So you can basically punch people with the crossguard, and the crossguard will act as a hammerhead or a spike. There is a charming little German technique called the murder stroke, where you grab your sword around the blade and just enthusiastically swing the crossguard at the head of your opponent. And with the peripheral speed you get with this strike, your hands might get a little bit cut up, but compared to the other guy, that's an acceptable loss. Because
what happens to the... Sorry.
You punch the crossguard into his cranium and kill him. You can even do this through a helmet if the helmet isn't properly made. So it's called the murder stroke, and it's fun.
And it's fun. PJ said the Chinese Jindu is similar. Jimdo is similar in appearance to the katana, except for the cross piece. And then Albert says, "Throw the pommel," because it's fun.
Yeah. The pommel throwing is from an actual manuscript. It's
Is it?
Yes, it is. The problem is that almost no pommels are threaded, so you can't screw off the pommel like they do in this manuscript. So people are arguing back and forth if he's talking about a certain type of weapon or if this is basically just an inside joke among fencing masters in Europe in the uh, early Renaissance, late medieval times. It's a very, very nutty strategy. Even if you could take off your pommel, I don't know if you want to, because now your
Oh yeah.
handle will fall off the next time you try to cut with the sword. So, yeah, it's an odd one. I don't remember which manuscript it's from, but it's an actual suggested technique.
So next week, Saturday, same time. We still gotta make bread.
Yeah, we still have to molest the bread maker.
But actually, I think the problem is because I get here on Friday night and pretty much have to go to work straight away. Don't have by the time then I've been driving all day, got up early, whatever, and I'm too tired and go to sleep. Then we have Saturday, but Saturday gets kind of busy with other stuff, and then YouTube, of course. And then by the time Sunday rolls around, I have to leave by 2 o'clock, so it's limited time. However, I just realized my kids' Easter break is not just a long weekend; it's like 10 days.
I don't think we should set a date on it, but sooner or later we will use the bread maker.
I think Easter is a good time to because Easter vacation it's like 10 days.
Again, we shouldn't set a time on it, but sooner or later we will use the bread
We
maker.
we could make a Cadbury egg bread. With some chocolate in there and stuff, and
Yep.
maybe a bunny or two. Yeah. You got the reference, says Albert, about throw the pommel. Okay, then let's see. I was going to start increasing.
There is also another, this
Yeah.
one I think would actually work, but it's a very, very narrow window where you would actually consider this. It's an Italian longsword technique where you throw your longsword like a dart. You basically hold it
definitely,
with your
PJ.
shaft between the fingers like this, cross guard over here, and you... It's the disarming oneself strategy for winning a duel. I am very skeptical of the. I don't think there is many situations where you would actually do this, but you could actually do this. It would work. It would fly point first in the direction you throw it. But this would be obviously slower than a thrust. It's parryable, and even if you hit, you won't necessarily kill. And now your opponent has two long swords, and they're used then like a moron. So it's like what Rune says to tourists about axe throwing. You wouldn't normally want to empty your hand in a battle, but if you see a monk running away with a big chest of gold...
I didn't know I haven't heard that one yet from him. I would need to be in the village more. PG said she could post a photo of the Jim Do in their group if you're interested. Yeah, no, definitely. But do it as a comment to the video, because if you post a picture of a Jim Do in the needle binding group, they might wonder if it's topic friendly. But if it's on the comment
as
to
I
this
found
one,
out today, you can knit a skeleton, so I'm sure you could...
yes, no, who was it that posted it? It was Andy Phil.
So I'm pretty sure you could needle bind a Jindu.
If you haven't seen it, it's been around for a while, because I know I've seen this a couple of years ago, but it's on Pinterest or something, but it's a knitted skeleton. Somebody knit all the bones of a skeleton in some white yarn. And then I had to take Karl further down the rabbit hole. And what was that lady's name? Lisa something, a Finnish woman who crochets people.
Yes.
Life-size people, down to the details of their same clothes, their glasses.
Yep.
Even a guy with a walker. The walker was also done. A lady walking a dog. The dog was also knit.
I don't want to
and
live
crocheted.
anywhere near this Finnish woman.
Oh man, it's amazing, the stuff that she does. Anyway, just I think you can just look up.
I would rather live next to the skeleton knitter than the full person knitter.
Oh, then I have to show you this other lady on Instagram that she crochets. You know, the yarn bombing is a technique, basically. If say, for example, most Vikings, they'll have like a water bottle or something, and they'll try to hide it by making so that you can't see it in the Viking village, or the reenactors, I should say. So they'll like null-bind something to go around it. So that's basically yarn bombing it. This lady has yarn bombed everything: a bicycle, a telephone, lamps, I mean, the whole thing is yarn bombed. I follow her on Instagram. I haven't been on Instagram in a while. I have to get in there again.
It's
But
like a cat lady with
and she uses bright colors.
too few cats and too much coffee. Then you get
I mean, the
products
whole
like this.
room, chairs, or it's yarn bomb anything. But oh my god, the amount of work that goes into both that and making people and a skeleton, by the way, it's insane. You have to check those out. Kiwi says Korean Hwandu is similar to the katana as well. They often feature historical TV and they often are featured in historical TV shows. Didn't know that. The Hwando, Hwando, Korean.
There is a lot I don't know about Eastern martial arts.
Oh, we are stumping him left and right. I'm gonna have to leave you if you don't get a brain back. I'm just doing you for your brain.
They have so many weird weapons and techniques down there that it is impossible to have a complete top-down view. The one good idea I saw from the Japanese is the Yari spearhead. And a normal spear has two edges and is flat like this. So you have you get a cut that is basically a flat line. The Yari is like a three-sided pyramid. So you have three cutting edges, effectively, which gives it more rigidity. And since you have three cutting edges, it cuts through armor, for instance, better than the botkin head that we use here in the West with four sides. Because the same amount of energy is now distributed in making three cuts instead of making four cuts. I don't see any disadvantage except from it being somewhat complicated for a blacksmith to make.
Yeah.
So it's very good armor-piercing spearhead. And I don't know of anybody, might be some, but I don't know of anybody but the Japanese who made this.
Oh, I like this one. Audra says det er fullmåne, så det er OK å kunne ikke snakke og kunne ikke huske. That makes so much perfect sense. It's a full moon outside, says Audra, so it's okay if you can't remember or speak full sentences.
Yes.
That's exactly what's going on with my brain today. My calibrated, exhibited. Well, you know what? When I have to count stitches and I need you guys to get Karl speaking so I can count stitches, weapons. Good call. Max says, does the dollar stitch have a plated edge? Yeah, let me see. Wait a minute, I gotta do it again. That way. Well, if it did, it could be real quick here now. Let's see. If we did have a plated edge, usually what they're calling a plated edge is, okay, so you make the stitch. Doesn't matter if you're doing Oslo or whatever. Actually, Oslo with a plated edge is called Bjørspo. So you do the stitch, but instead of going under, you go over. You could do that. I'm not sure what that stitch would be called. It wouldn't be dollar, no, it would, but you could say dollar on a plated edge. But yeah, instead of going under this yarn, you just go over. So there you go. Ooh, that I might have to try that. Anyway, this is what it looks like. I am now increasing. And then the outside. This is upside down. There you go. But it hugs. This started out much bigger, and it's just kind of, now I'm starting to increase so that it goes up this part. Anyway, let's see. Audra's laughing. Før var jeg varulv, men jeg er bedre now. No. Torben says, before I was a werewolf, but now I'm much better. No, okay, we're going way out. I mean, we're having too much fun. Saturday, same time.
Yeah.
You're gonna be there?
Yes,
Yep.
with or without bread.
I might have to, with or without bread, and I might have to count. So you gotta distract him and see. They stumped you twice today. Well, no, you weren't completely stumped. You just said I may have to Google this. That's good. That's like beating Georg at Nefertafel.
No, it's much harder to stump me than to beat Georg and Nefertafel.
Bye-bye.
Bye.